What's going on, guys? Ben here, back with another video. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at the new Steam Deck OLED. I own the original Steam Deck and I loved that device. It was definitely like something that I was so happy to have because it was a on-the-go handheld device that I can bring with me everywhere I went, and it just made my experience with gaming so much more pleasant, and the Linux operating system was just so easy to use, and I was enjoying my time with it, but then I was also kind of like curious what the other handhelds had to offer. So I actually owned many different handhelds in the past. I owned the ROG Ally, I owned the One X Fly, the Aya Neo, and a few others. And coming back to the Steam Deck after using all those Windows handhelds has been liberating. It's been like what I've exactly missed about having a handheld PC, and why I think the Steam Deck OLED is the obvious choice if you are looking to get a handheld. And even if you have those other handhelds, my recommendation honestly is to sell the handheld you have to some sucker who wants to deal with Windows, and you get yourself a Steam Deck OLED. So to start with some overview of the improvements over the original Steam Deck is the display is number one, and that was my main annoyance with the first Steam Deck. It was a very crappy display. I mean, it just wasn't colorful, it got pretty bright, but honestly the colors were so muted and the input lag was really bad, especially going from a OLED TV to the Steam Deck. You're just gonna feel like like this LCD panel is pretty crap, honestly. So as the title of the device implies, it rocks an OLED display that gets up to a peak 1000 nit brightness. And my impressions of this screen are, geez, like this may be the nicest looking screen in my house. Probably not the QD OLED monitor I'm actually using right now, but like that's a different league. But this is very close to that in terms of picture quality. I mean, all the other handhelds I've owned in the past, PC handhelds, were 1920 by 1080. The Legion Go was actually 2560 but that was just like ridiculous overkill. I did not like that device. But I don't need to get into that in this video. But this is a 720p or 800p display because it's 16 by 10, and it is a beauty. I don't notice the pixels whatsoever on this small screen. I thought going from that 1080p to this 720p, I would be like, dang, like, the pixels are really obvious. They're not. Like, the only thing you can do when looking at this display is be in shock because it is actually perfect. There's no issues with it whatsoever. It gets so bright that I'm kind of like a crazy brightness dude. Like, I love brightness in my displays, and this display gets too bright for me in a lot of scenarios where I'm turning it down because my eyes are just kind of on fire. So I feel like with this display, being outside, being, outdoors, which, us gamers, we don't really do. But when we have to go outdoors to get food to bring back home, actually we have DoorDash. Actually, yeah, I guess I haven't been outside in six months. I saw my mom 6 months ago, but But anyways, I love this display. It's so bright, it's so colorful. I haven't wanted to adjust the color settings or download Vibrant Deck or anything like that because, I like a really saturated display, and this is a very saturated display. It's not overblown. The color reproduction is perfect. It's a Samsung OLED. They kill OLEDs. They make up the best displays pretty much on the market. And I think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, gaming on this really improves your experience over any other handheld because maybe you're not hitting the same frame rates, but that all goes out the window because what you're looking at is a playable game that looks better than every other display. And when you're actually playing the game, you just want to get immersed in that content. And I think this has been the most immersive piece of technology that I've owned in a long time. So yeah, in terms of hardware, it's also a lot better battery life, especially compared to the Windows PC handhelds I've owned in the past. The ROG Ally was crap. The Legion Go was even worse than that, which is weird because it's big. And the One X Fly had pretty good battery life. It is one of my favorite handhelds ever, but I still was losing battery pretty frequently on that device. So with this device, I mean, it's actually reminds me of my MacBook Pro because, I really don't think about the battery life very often when I'm using it. Like, I've had to charge it like 3 times and I use it all the time. And I actually got this little battery bank that you plug on the back of it with a little cord here. And I mean, if that's on the back of this, I can game for easily 20 hours. and not have to break a sweat. So that's like, you know, something about this device that just actually just like exceeds every other handheld in the entire handheld PC space, because, you know, you want a handheld device because you want to play it wherever you are. I mean, a lot of the time, obviously, we're indoors because we're gamers, you know how that goes. But, you know, when we're not at home, when we're traveling and, you know, having to scurry for a charger, like when I'm on a plane and I remember having my Aya Neo and I was like 30 minutes into gaming on the plane and I had to plug it in and the charger wasn't going into the little thing in the plane, like the little charging air, like socket, and it was falling out because it was like a 140-watt brick, right? And it kept falling out and it just literally would not stay in. So every single time, like I just had to stop playing because it was going to run out and the charger wasn't going to plug in, so there was nothing that I could do. That was a prime example of where something like the Steam Deck OLED would have been perfect, because I would have had enough battery life. It's going to last you minimum, if you're like pushing everything to the limit, 90 FPS, all of that, you know, you're going to get like at least 220 or 2 hours and 20 minutes or so, which just far exceeds any other handheld on the space in so many different ways. I mean, when this thing was announced, you know, I was honestly so excited. I was like, dang, like I just got this Legion Go, but I was already not liking the Legion Go, planning on returning it. I ended up returning it, thankfully. That was a buggy mess, and you know, that was, in my opinion, you know, if you have a Legion Go, I get it. Like, it's a cool device, it's a big screen, I get all that, but it's not a handheld. I mean, it really is more of a small Windows laptop, because, you know, the controllers, in my opinion, they're so unergonomic. Like, if you have a Legion Go, you can't tell me that's an ergonomic device. This is the most ergonomic PC device I've held in ever, really. I got these grips on it, as you can see, and the grips add so much like staying power. You know, this is not going to go anywhere, and it's very comfortable to use. Having all that real estate, that was something that was missing in the One X Fly. Even though it was a very ergonomic device, it was also pretty small. So, you know, I got some big hands, and this fits a lot nicer with my hands. I think most people are going to have a very comfortable experience with this device. If you've ever owned a Steam Deck in the past, you know whether or not this is a good device for you in terms of ergonomics. So this is the 512 gigabyte model. I was really debating getting that limited edition model because that thing is sick, but I decided to go with the 512 gigabyte option because I really like glossy screens, especially with an OLED. I think that, you know, a matte screen is nice in some circumstances, but when the light is diffused, you're really losing that pop that I think a glossy screen can provide. And I'm really happy with my purchase. I've had no issues with these reflections. Like, there are reflections for sure, but the screen gets so bright that you're gonna see whatever past the reflection. Like, it's comparable to my 16-inch or 14-inch MacBook Pro with an XDR display with a mini LED panel on it, where even though it's a glossy screen, you can see all the content because the screen just gets so bright. So yeah, if you're worried about getting the glossy or the matte screen, I would recommend honestly getting the 512 gigabyte variant. And what I did with this one is I actually installed a 2 terabyte SSD. It was super simple. I'm not like super, you know, hands-on with my tech. I don't like to take things apart and such, but this was a very simple process. I just took the screws off the back and it was like right there. So I just undid the SSD and put in a new one, and it was good to go. Now I have 2 terabytes plus a 1 terabyte storage card in here, so like 3 terabytes of storage, which is insane. I have like 40 different emulators on here, ROMs from PS2 to Wii U, Switch ROMs, and I also have about 40 normal Steam games. So I'm super happy with my experience with that. I tried undervolting the Steam Deck OLED, and I mean, I'm not the person to talk about this, but I mean, I was having some bugs, and the my Proton updated to a version, obviously, that wasn't compatible with my EMU deck, so my emulated games weren't working, so I had to go back to the stable version. I don't know if that's been fixed or not, but I just wanted to quickly talk about my experience with undervolting. I'd say just make sure you know what you're doing before you get into something like that. Another great thing that I love to do with the Steam Deck that is just so far exceeds any of the other handhelds is the sleep to wake using a controller. I think that is sick, and it's super usable. I mean, for me, I love playing my emulated games on my TV, just kicking back and playing some of the old classics like Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, or even some new Nintendo Switch games. That is just a great experience, to be able to just play like as a console. This is a console experience as a handheld. I think the problem with the Windows is that, they're not handheld. It's not a handheld operating system, so you're just going to have a lot of issues with that. This is built for handhelds, this Linux operating system, and it has just made a night and day difference with ease of use. Games actually launch, and trying to close out of a game, you actually have to go into like either Task Manager or go back to Windows, and then just kind of like try to click close a window, and then when you have to launch another, a launcher like Epic Games or Steam, it takes a second, especially because it's not a super powerful CPU. So everything runs sluggish compared to something like this. This runs so much quicker, and just going from game to game to game, which sometimes I tend to do, it's just a much easier experience. And plugging into the TV makes that an even more seamless experience. It's honestly just a fantastic ease of use experience with the Steam Deck OLED. So I want to touch on performance a little bit here. So when comparing to my previous devices that I've owned, so I've owned the Aya Neo, the 6800U, the One X Fly had the 7840U, and the ROG Ally had the Z1 Extreme. So all these different CPUs and chips inside these devices technically are faster than the device that the chip that the Steam Deck uses. But in my experience, I have seen little to no day-to-day difference in performance compared to those devices. I would say that there is maybe a 15% lower expected performance compared to those devices. But in most games, like especially like Elden Ring actually runs better on this than it does on those devices. It must have to do something with Proton or something to do with Windows. I don't know what it is, but I'm getting a consistent 45-50 FPS on the Steam Deck OLED, and I was getting maybe 30 minimum on the other devices. I don't know if I had not updated drivers, which I'm pretty sure I did, but yeah, my device was just running slower with some games too. So I think you're just not really trading much in terms of like performance. And if you really want a lot of performance, you can overclock this device. It's at your own risk, obviously, but if you really need like highest performance ever, then you can do that. But honestly, I do a lot of gaming. I have a 4080 in my PC. I tend to use this more than any other device, and the simple reason for that is I like video games. I like gaming, and if you like gaming, just enjoy the game. It doesn't need to be the highest performance at all times. I mean, to expect a small device like this to pump out 120 FPS in every game at ultra settings is ludicrous. This is 2023, it's not 2040. Like, you're not gonna get everything that you want in the palm of your hand. You're getting a hell of a lot in the palm of your hand, and I think you should be grateful, honestly. I mean, to complain about performance in a device this small that fits in the palm of your hand and can play almost every game under the sun is just ludicrous to me. And I think just enjoy what you have. I think this is just, the pinnacle of technology right now for consumer electronics, especially in the gaming space. And I think, you should be grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to Valve. I'm grateful for the competition in the space right now. And I think, the trajectory for gaming moving forward just keeps going up and up and up. I mean, PlayStation Portal definitely punched down on that idea. And the funny thing is, I think that this is also an amazing streaming device. I have always been somebody who did not like game streaming. I don't know if it's because I had, slow Wi-Fi, which I don't. I actually have gigabit Wi-Fi, but I don't know. It was just always a buggy, laggy input. Latency was terrible. It was just not an enjoyable experience. But with this Steam Deck OLED with Wi-Fi 6E, I am getting close to perfect input lag and excellent performance with no artifacting at all. Not one time have I had any artifacting in my gaming sessions using Xbox cloud streaming. It's a little bit of a headache to set up, but you can get, you can stream your Xbox. I have an Xbox Series X, so I stream it to this device. And all I do is just launch it and it automatically turns on my Xbox and I'm gaming. The controller's configured and everything's good to go. You can look up a tutorial. Actually, I'll leave one in the description for you guys. And you just start gaming. Like, you are right away using Xbox and it is streaming all your games, and I've had no artifacting. So that's how I'm able to play Call of Duty and Fortnite on the Steam Deck. Like, that was the one thing I was kind of annoyed about with Linux, because, those games don't run because of easy anti-cheat. Not a problem if I'm streaming, and it's a competitive experience. I mean, it's not like, using a gaming PC with a 4080 in it, but it's pretty comparable. I mean, it's an Xbox Series X, so the graphics are great and it runs so great, and there's like little to no latency. And I just think it's just a really great thing that, having that implementation so easily embedded into my Steam Deck has been fantastic. So yeah, to wrap things up, I just want to say I'm really excited about the trajectory for gaming going forward. As I said in previously, I think that this device is setting the benchmark for handheld PCs, for pretty much any handheld. This is the one to get. If you're looking at all the handhelds on the market, you're kind of like, oh my God, there's so many. Get this one. There's just no other way. Like, it's cheaper than most options. It's more smooth, more stable, easier to use than all the other options. It has a better screen by a mile than every other option on the market, and you're just gonna love it. You're gonna want to tinker around with it. You're gonna fall in love with gaming again, and this is a great time, and I'm just super thankful. So thank you, Valve, and thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll try to be coming out with more content more often. I totally redid the gaming setup too, so I might have to make a video about that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.